Hey, what's poppin' YouTube? My name's Gray, and you join me as I take a look in on a couple of games, hoping to take full advantage of the dinosaur craze following the critical and box office success of Jurassic Park, Xenozoic Tales, or as it would later come to be known, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, based on a short-lived cartoon series from the early 90s that in turn was inspired by an independent comic series from the mid-80s, a time when alternative, anthropomorphic, all-action, black and white comic strips were the order of the day, following the trend started by the unprecedented, then recent success of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But while the Cadillacs and Dinosaurs self-published comic would only last 14 issues, released staggeringly between 1987 and 1996, and the poorly received animated series that limped onto TV screens for only one dreary season. But what about the games? Well, when the Capcom logo popped up, I won't lie to you folks, the T-Rex in my pocket stirred from his slumber, because if any company understood the intricacies and complexities of the beat-em-up genre, it was the developers of Final Fight. And while I have no clue whatsoever if Capcom strayed too far from the source material, like they infamously tried to do with Dungeons and Dragons, what I do know for absolute certainty though, is that they clearly had fun putting this one together. The mix of post-apocalyptic action crossed with pulse-pounding prehistoric encounters gives a unique spin on what can be a repetitive genre. Sadly though, like other high-profile licensed arcade titles of this time that eclipsed the properties on which they were based, such as Konami's Bucky O'Hare or Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, not to mention Capcom's own interpretation of the long-running Aliens vs Predator franchise, none of these fantastic games have received home ports or re-releases, either due to copyright or the thorny issue of royalties. However, for Cadillacs and Dinosaurs at least, our story doesn't end here. Because a sequel of sorts, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs The Second Cataclysm, would, somewhat ironically, wind up exclusively on a system long considered extinct by its 1994 release, the Sega Mega CD, or simply Sega CD as it's known across the pond. I mention this because the game wound up being US exclusive. But before I take a look under the hood to see if this is a turbocharged follow-up or simply a consoleized curb crawler, you should be aware that Capcom were not involved in the production of this game. Instead, development duties were handled by a newly founded company with big ambitions of utilising the new CD-based technology that was fast becoming the industry standard in gaming, Rocket Science Games, who promised cinematic FMV-laced interactive titles were the future, even though the full-motion video novelty had worn off very quickly with gamers by this time. And like the 3DO, they were more interested in the technology than the games. So not surprisingly, they went out of business soon after, and today are probably best remembered for the fact that they had a young man on the programming staff of this very game by the name of Elon Musk. But honestly though, I couldn't tell you what his role was, maybe all he did was make the tea. The game itself is a janky on-rails shoot-em-up. But give it a chance, I hear you cry. Surely shooting the primordial ooze out of a bunch of velociraptors and other rampaging dinos should be a bit of fun. And I wholeheartedly agree, it probably would. Unfortunately, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is all about that Captain Planet message, and we can't shoot living creatures. Instead, we spend our time shooting debris and bits of rock, clearing a path for our gas guzzler, which no matter how much you play, you never feel in full control of. Overall, a pretty insubstantial effort on a pretty insubstantial system. So my name's Gray, you've been watching Consoletronix, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to stay tuned as I'll have lots more videos coming your way soon. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.